Get out." "You don't belong here." Brad Morrison's voice thundered across Murphy's diner, his fist slamming down on the counter so hard the salt shaker rattled. Conversations died. Coffee cups froze midair. All eyes turned to the corner booth where 72-year-old Sam Washington sat, his cardigan buttoned, his quarters neatly stacked beside his steaming cup of black coffee. Sam looked up slowly, his hand brushing the American flag pin on his chest, the silver catching the light. He didn't flinch. "Excuse me?" he asked quietly. "I said get out." Brad leaned closer, jaw tight, veins standing out on his neck. "You think this place is for the likes of you? This is Millbrook, not your playground." Phones came up. Screens blinked red. Maria, the waitress, swallowed hard behind the counter, her knuckles white on the coffee pot. "Brad," Fire Chief Rodriguez muttered from another booth. "Leave it alone." "Shut up, Rodriguez," Brad snapped without looking. His eyes stayed locked on Sam, his grin sharp and ugly. "Old man, I said move before I make you." Sam breathed out slowly. He gathered his change. "I don't want trouble," he said. Brad barked a laugh. "You don't want trouble?" His open hand lashed out before anyone could react. Crack. The sound of skin on skin split the air like a gunshot. Gasps erupted. A woman at the counter covered her mouth. Rodriguez leapt to his feet. Maria's phone shook in her hand as she recorded. Sam staggered sideways, his cheek burning, blood trickling where Brad's heavy ring had caught skin. His coffee toppled, splattering across the floor. For a heartbeat he looked frail, just a defenseless old man. Then his spine straightened. His shoulders squared. "You just made a mistake," Sam said softly, his voice steady. Brad sneered. "What are you going to do about it, Grandpa? Call your mommy?" Sam's hand slid into his pocket. He pulled out his phone. Calm, precise. He scrolled one-handed, the other wiping blood from his face. "Who you calling, huh?" "Your lawyer." "The sheriff." Brad jeered, playing to the crowd. Sam lifted the phone. His thumb pressed a single contact at the very top of his list. It rang once, twice. Then a voice answered, deep and authoritative. "Dad, everything okay?" The diner froze. Every phone kept recording. Every ear strained. Brad's grin faltered. "Dad?" he repeated, Sam's lips curved faintly. "I'm fine, James," he said into the speaker. "But there's been an incident." The voice sharpened instantly. "Where are you? Are you hurt?" "I'll have agents there in 20 minutes. Agents. The word struck like lightning. Maria nearly dropped her phone. Rodriguez swore under his breath. Brad blinked rapidly, his face draining of color. "Who the hell are you talking to?" he demanded, Sam's eyes locked with his. "My son, James Washington, Director of Homeland Security." Silence. Heavy. Absolute. The entire diner had just realized the bully had slapped the wrong man. "You're lying." Brad's laugh came out forced, brittle. His eyes darted from Sam to the glowing phone screen as if the truth could be bullied back into the shadows. Sam didn't blink. He held the phone steady, the speaker loud enough for everyone to hear. "Dad, where exactly are you?" James's voice carried authority. Not the panicked tone of a son, but the clipped, trained cadence of a federal leader used to commanding rooms. "Murphy's Diner," Sam replied. "Millbrook," a beat of silence. Then James said firmly, "Stay where you are. No one touches you until I arrive." The weight of those words hit the room like a stone dropped in still water. Every eye shifted to Brad. Every phone camera zoomed closer. The man who had strutted into the spotlight suddenly looked like a deer caught under high beams. Maria Santos swallowed hard, whispering, "Oh my God." "It's true," Brad snarled. "You're all eating this up, huh? You think this old man has connections? This is just a stunt. Ain't that right, Sam?" Sam's gaze stayed calm, unblinking. "Son," he said into the phone, "you might want to send a couple of units sooner. This man's getting reckless." "Already done," James answered. "Local authorities and federal response are en route." The color drained further from Brad's face. His chest heaved. "Federal?" he whispered. Behind him, Fire Chief Rodriguez stepped forward, eyes narrowing. "Brad, I saw everything. You hit him. You threatened him. Half the town saw it. This isn't going away." "You shut your mouth," Brad snapped, but his voice cracked. He looked around for support, but the diners who usually laughed at his crude jokes wouldn't meet his eye. Even his drinking buddy from earlier had already slid out the side door. Maria steadied her phone. "It's all recorded. The shove, the slap, every word you said." Brad spun toward her. "Delete it." She didn't move. I said, "Delete it." Her hand shook, but her voice didn't. "No." Sam slipped the phone from his ear for a moment. "James, witnesses have everything on video," he said, clear enough for everyone to hear. "It's documented." "Good," came the voice. "That ensures prosecution." Brad's jaw worked, muscles twitching. "You think you're untouchable, old man? You think some fancy son is going to protect you?" He gestured wildly, his confidence unraveling. "You don't belong here." "None of you do." Sam's expression sharpened, his tone cutting through the room. "Belonging isn't yours to decide. Respect isn't yours to give or take. And dignity," he paused. "Dignity is mine to keep." The words landed heavier than the slap had. Phones kept filming. The quiet diner had transformed into a courtroom. Then, outside, a new sound rose. Sirens. Distant at first, then closer, louder, wrapping around the streets of Millbrook. Brad turned toward the windows. Panic finally surfacing. Sam lifted the phone back to his ear. "James," he said evenly, "I think your people are here." And for the first time, Brad Morrison realized his entire life was about to collapse. The wail of sirens grew louder, bouncing off the diner's glass windows until it filled every corner of the room. Red and blue lights painted the walls in pulses of judgment. Forks clinked against plates as nervous hands set them down. No one moved, no one spoke. Brad Morrison stood frozen, sweat breaking across his brow. He turned to the windows like a man facing his own reflection and hating what he saw. "Brad," Fire Chief Rodriguez said low, almost pitying, "you're finished." "Shut up," Brad hissed. His voice was tight, strained, his bravado shriveling. He spun back to Sam. "Tell them it was nothing. Just a misunderstanding. You don't want this." Sam adjusted his cardigan calmly, dabbing the blood at his cheek with a napkin. "What I want," he said evenly, "is accountability." The door swung open. Sheriff Patricia Hayes entered first, her uniform crisp, her expression taut. Behind her, 2 deputies flanked the doorway. The diner's air tightened, the kind of silence that comes before a verdict is read. "Morning," Hayes said, scanning the room. "Got a call from federal contacts about an assault. Mr. Washington." Her eyes flicked to the older man, then hardened. "You all right?" "I'll live," Sam answered. His voice carried dignity, not weakness. Hayes turned to Brad. "And you?" Brad spread his arms, desperate. "It was nothing. Just a joke that went too far. Ask anybody." "We were just—" "No, Sheriff," Maria cut in, her phone still raised. He slapped him. "I got it on video." Others nodded. A murmur of agreement swept the booths. Sheriff Hayes stiffened. "Video?" Maria tapped her screen. The diner filled with the sharp crack of Brad's hand against Sam's cheek, the recording undeniable. She held it up, the image of Brad's sneer and Sam's quiet endurance replaying. Hayes's jaw clenched. She looked at Brad. "You assaulted a 72-year-old veteran. With witnesses. With video. With federal attention already circling." Brad's chest rose and fell, panic breaking through the last threads of arrogance. He provoked me." Rodriguez barked a laugh. "By drinking his coffee?" Hayes raised her hand. "Enough. Brad Morrison, you're coming with us." Brad stepped back, his boots scraping the tiled floor. "You can't. This is a mistake. You don't understand what's at stake." Sam's voice broke the silence. "The only thing at stake here, Brad, is your character. And you already lost that." The deputies moved. They closed in, hands firm on Brad's arms. He thrashed once, twice, but their grip was iron. Phones caught every second. Every angle. The bully dragged toward justice while the man he struck stood straight, unbroken. As the door shut behind them, the diner exhaled. Maria lowered her phone. Rodriguez rubbed his temple. Customers whispered, glancing at Sam like they were seeing him for the first time. Sam eased back into his booth, his voice calm. "Now," he said quietly, "may I finish my coffee?" And with that, the power shifted forever. The diner door had barely swung closed behind Brad when the whispers started. Phones buzzed across town before the sheriff's cruiser even cleared Main Street. By the time Sam took his last sip of coffee, Millbrook was already dividing into 2 camps. those who saw a racist bully exposed, and those who saw a misunderstanding that should have stayed quiet. At Town Hall, Mayor Tom Thompson's phone rang nonstop. He ignored the first 5 calls, but the 6th one, Brad Morrison's lawyer, he couldn't. "Tom, listen," the lawyer said, voice clipped. "You've got to keep this contained. Brad's a pillar in the construction business. He funds your development projects. You don't want this on national news." Mayor Thompson pinched the bridge of his nose. "What am I supposed to do? Half the town saw it. There are videos all over Facebook." "Then spin it," the lawyer snapped. "Call it a misunderstanding. Say Brad was provoked. By the time the dust settles, the footage will be old news." But the footage wasn't fading. Maria had already uploaded her clip to Instagram Live. Tommy Carter, the college kid outside with his camera, had posted his full video to YouTube. In less than 2 hours, the diner assault was climbing toward 50,000 views. Back at the sheriff's office, Brad sat in a holding cell, his arrogance cracking under the fluorescent lights. His lawyer arrived, tie crooked, anger radiating. "You don't talk," the lawyer hissed through the bars. "Not to the sheriff, not to reporters, not to anyone. We'll fix this. We'll make him look like some old man with dementia. No one needs to know who his son is." But Brad's eyes were hollow. "You don't get it," he muttered. "The whole damn country's going to know who he is." Across town, Sam Washington sat quietly in his living room. The house was modest, lined with family photos and military plaques. His cheeks still burned from the slap, but his mind was calm. He wasn't thinking about himself. He was thinking about Maria, brave enough to record when others stayed silent. About Tommy, who hadn't even realized he was about to capture history. About the weight his son would feel once the phone calls started in Washington. The phone rang again. Maria's voice came through, urgent. "Mr. Washington, they're already trying to twist it. Brad's people are saying you provoked him. They're saying it wasn't racist, just a bar fight." Sam's voice was steady. Truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs to stand. But in smoky offices and hushed back rooms, Brad's allies weren't giving up. Developers whispered about lost profits. Council members fretted about tourism. The sheriff caught between her badge and her town's politics. The night after the slap, Sam Washington sat alone at his kitchen table, the silence pressing in like heavy fog. His cheek was bruised, his hip sore from the shove, but it wasn't the pain that kept him awake. It was the calls. First, one from Sheriff Hayes. "Sam." Her voice was low, careful. "Maybe it's best if we let this settle down. Brad's a fool, but if this goes to court, it's going to rip the town apart." Sam's jaw tightened. "Sheriff, the town didn't slap me." "Brad did. You know what I mean," Hayes said quickly. "Tourism season's coming. We can't afford bad publicity. I'll make sure Brad apologizes publicly." "Maybe that's enough." Sam ended the call without answering. He'd worn a uniform longer than Hayes had worn a badge. He knew when an order was being dressed up as advice. By morning, the retaliation began. Sam's garbage was scattered across his lawn. His mailbox was smashed, the word "traitor" spray-painted across it in dripping red letters. When Maria pulled up to work, she found her tires slashed. Tommy's email account was hacked, his professor suddenly receiving threatening messages, supposedly from him. At the diner, people whispered. Some told Maria she should have stayed quiet. Others gave Sam nods of respect when they passed him on the street, but none spoke too loudly. Fear kept voices low, but fear didn't silence Maria. That evening, she went live again on Instagram. Her voice shook at first, but steadied as she spoke. "They want us to believe silence keeps us safe, but silence just lets bullies grow stronger. I recorded what happened because I was tired of staying quiet. I won't stop now." The live stream exploded. Comments flooded in from other towns, other states. Veterans posted support. Civil rights groups reached out. The hashtag Raji Justice for Sam began trending, carried by strangers who'd never set foot in Millbrook but knew injustice when they saw it. Meanwhile, Brad Morrison sat with his lawyer drafting a statement. "Say it was a misunderstanding," the lawyer insisted. "Say you were just joking that you had too much to drink." "People forgive that," Brad swallowed hard. "But it's all on video." "Then we bury the video," the lawyer snapped. "We drown it in counterclaims. Sue Maria for defamation." Accuse the kid of editing footage. File nuisance lawsuits until they can't fight back. The plan was clear. Crush them under paperwork and smear campaigns. But what Brad didn't realize was that the more he pushed, the more eyes turned toward Millbrook. By the second night, regional news anchors were repeating Sam's name. By the third, national networks were replaying the slap in slow motion, the crack of Brad's hand against Sam's face echoing in living rooms across America. Sam, sitting with his son James on a late-night call, heard the hum of power in the silence after. James's voice was steady, almost too steady. "Dad, this isn't just about you anymore. It's about everyone who's ever been told to know their place. And we're not backing down." Sam looked at the bruises on his cheek in the mirror. He touched his American flag pin, straightened his cardigan, and whispered, "Then neither am I." 3 days after the slap, Millbrook no longer felt like the same quiet town. Reporters clustered outside Murphy's Diner. Satellite trucks lined Main Street. Strangers carried signs that read, "Respect our elders and justice for Sam." The clip had gone viral. 12 million views and climbing. Inside his modest home, Sam Washington sat with 2 federal agents. Their dark suits and clipped tones were nothing like the chatter of local deputies. Agent Sarah Carter set a folder on the table, photographs spilling out, frames frozen from Maria's video, timestamps from the diner's security system, and transcripts of Brad Morrison's words. "Mr. Washington," she said, her voice firm but kind. "This is textbook civil rights violation. Assault with clear racial motivation. But it's bigger than that." The video sparked attention higher up. "We're opening a full investigation into patterns of harassment in Millbrook." Sam nodded slowly. "Patterns? You mean this isn't the first time?" Agent Carter's partner leaned forward. "We've already received 6 complaints in 48 hours. Shopkeepers pushed out of business. Families denied loans. Minorities harassed at polling places. Your case is the spark, sir. Now we need to find the fire." Outside, Maria stood with Tommy Carter, her phone buzzing nonstop. Local trolls spammed her with threats. Fake accounts spread rumors she'd fabricated the footage. But for every hateful message, 100 strangers sent support. "Don't quit," one veteran wrote. "We're with you." Another message read, "My father served." Sam deserves better. Brad Morrison, meanwhile, was crumbling under the weight of his own choices. He sat in his lawyer's office, watching his reputation collapse in real time. The lawyer flipped through papers, sweating. "Brad, this isn't just a bar fight anymore. The feds are circling. Civil rights lawyers are circling. They're digging into your business accounts, your donations. If they find coordination," Brad cut him off. "Coordination with who?" The lawyer paused, lips pressed tight. "With the mayor, with council members, with anyone who might have helped create this mess." Brad's face drained of color. He knew too well about the late-night meetings, the coded phrases and emails, the whispered plans to protect property values. What had felt like backroom chatter now sounded like evidence. That evening, Sheriff Patricia Hayes called Sam privately. No cameras, no notepad, just desperation. "Sam, please, drop the charges. This town can't handle what's coming. Businesses will pull out. Developers will run. People are scared." Sam studied her for a long moment. His voice was quiet but unyielding. "Scared of justice or scared of losing control?" Hayes said nothing. At the diner, Maria went live again, standing in front of the broken coffee cups still taped in evidence bags. "This isn't just about one slap," she told her audience. "This is about every quiet insult, every shove, every time someone said we don't belong. But we do. And we're not leaving." The comments flooded in faster than she could read. "Stay strong. You're our voice. We're watching." Agent Carter, reviewing her phone later that night, smiled grimly. "Public opinion is shifting hard," she told her team. If Brad thought he could bury this with lies, he just dug himself deeper. In his living room, Sam Washington polished the edge of his Purple Heart medal. His hands moved steady, almost ritual. He whispered to himself words only he could hear. "I fought enemies overseas. I can fight them here too." And for the first time in decades, the quiet veteran felt the weight of a whole nation standing behind him. The town of Millbrook had seen scandals before, but nothing like this. By the 7th day, Murphy's Diner was more than a diner. It was ground zero for a national firestorm. Reporters staked out booths. Students carried protest signs. Veterans saluted Sam when he walked past, their faces solemn with respect. But the louder the chants outside, the more dangerous things became behind closed doors. Brad Morrison sat in a dimly lit bar miles outside town. His shirt collar was open, his gold watch loose on his wrist. Across from him sat Mayor Thompson, tie crooked, face pale. The mayor's whisper was frantic. "The feds are coming hard. They've already subpoenaed my emails. If they see those group messages, if they see your donation trail..." Brad slammed his fist on the table. "I didn't start this. That old man should have just walked away." The mayor's eyes narrowed. "You think the country cares about excuses? This isn't just you and Sam anymore. They're finding the pattern. Loans denied, families harassed, property deals pushed through. They'll string us all up together." Meanwhile, back in Millbrook, Agent Sarah Carter spread documents across the sheriff's desk. Phone records, bank transfers, internal memos. Every stone we turn over, the same names come up. Morrison, Thompson, Hayes. This wasn't random harassment. This was a network. Sheriff Patricia Hayes sat rigid, sweat beating at her temple. She muttered, "We were just protecting our community." Carter shot her a cold look. "By humiliating veterans, by forcing businesses to close, that isn't protection. That's corruption." The sheriff had no answer. Maria Santos prepared her nightly live stream. She sat in her small apartment, the glow of her phone camera reflecting in her determined eyes. "People keep asking me why I keep filming," she told thousands of viewers tuning in. The answer is simple. They wanted silence. Silence is what gave them power. But we're not silent anymore. She lifted a stack of papers, printed screenshots of Brad's private group chats. Phase 1 successful. 1 message read. 3 minority businesses closed. Property values stabilized. Another message, uglier still, mocked Sam Washington by name days before the assault. The comment section erupted in fury, exposed. They planned this. No hiding now. In his kitchen, Sam sat with his son James, Director of Homeland Security, who had flown in quietly under federal escort. The younger Washington leaned forward. "Dad, you don't just have a case, you have a movement. But this is where it gets dangerous. They're going to try everything. Smear campaigns, intimidation, maybe worse. You ready for that?" Sam's voice was steady. "I didn't fight for this country to back down now." At midnight, Marcus Thompson, a cyber specialist volunteering with the investigation, delivered the final blow. He had hacked into a cloud backup the conspirators thought was erased. His voice shook with both fear and triumph. "I've got it," he said, dropping a flash drive onto Agent Carter's desk. The deleted diner footage. The messages. The mayor's calls. Everything they tried to hide. It's all here. Carter stared at the drive like it was dynamite. "This isn't just evidence," she said. "This is the hammer that breaks them." And somewhere in the darkness of Millbrook, Brad Morrison felt the walls of power he thought protected him begin to collapse. The Millbrook Community Center had never been this full. Rows of metal chairs scraped against the floor as people squeezed inside. Overflow crowds spilled into the parking lot. Phones raised to live stream what was about to happen. National reporters huddled with cameras. Federal agents stood at the back, arms folded. The air was thick with expectation. Sam Washington entered quietly, his navy cardigan buttoned, the American flag pin gleaming under the fluorescent lights. Half the room rose in a standing ovation. Sam raised his hand modestly, acknowledging them, and took his seat in the front row beside Maria Santos, Tommy Carter, and Fire Chief Rodriguez. At the rear of the hall, Brad Morrison slumped into a chair. His once proud swagger was gone. His expensive watch seemed to drag his arm down. Mayor Thompson sat 2 seats away, pale and restless. Sheriff Hayes stood stiff, sweat shining under the lights. Federal mediator Linda Hayes banged the gavel. "This meeting will address the assault of Sam Washington and the broader allegations of civil rights violations in Millbrook." The first blow came fast. Tommy Carter's documentary footage played on giant screens. The slap, the shove, Brad's sneer, the racial taunts. Gasps rippled through the crowd as the camera zoomed in on the moment Brad's ring cut Sam's cheek. Silence followed, then whispers, then anger. Dr. Rebecca Martinez stepped up next, laying out the financial documents, the emails, the chat logs. Her voice was steady, her evidence undeniable. This wasn't one bad moment. This was a system. Coordinated harassment. Economic exclusion. Racist intent disguised as policy. Maria Santos approached the microphone. Her hands trembled, but her voice carried clear. I stayed silent too long. I was scared of losing my job. But fear only protects the powerful. Silence lets cruelty thrive. Tonight I say no more. Applause shook the walls. Finally, Sam Washington stood. At 72, his frame was lean but steady. The hall went silent. I didn't ask to be here. I wanted coffee, toast, and peace. But hatred found me. And when it did, I remembered something I learned long ago. Bullies only win when good people stay quiet. I forgive those who wronged me, but forgiveness is nothing without accountability. If this community wants to heal, it must change. Brad Morrison was pushed to the microphone by his lawyer. His face was gray, his voice cracked. I lost control. I never meant. He trailed off as Dr. Martinez handed the mediator one last piece of evidence. Brad's private email about Phase 1 successful. When the words were read aloud, the crowd erupted in outrage. Even his supporters turned away. Brad hung his head, broken. Mediator Hayes banged the gavel. By overwhelming vote, Millbrook will adopt the accountability measures: restitution, resignations, oversight, and reform. Cheers filled the hall. Maria cried openly. Tommy's livestream hit hundreds of thousands of viewers in real time. Sam sat back down, tears welling but unfallen. He leaned to James and whispered, "It was never about me. It was about dignity." As the cameras closed in, Maria lifted her phone and spoke directly to the world. If you believe dignity matters, if you believe respect isn't negotiable, hit subscribe, share this story, and tell us in the comments what you would have done. Because silence isn't an option. Not anymore. The crowd rose again, applause thundering as the old veteran stood tall, his quiet strength echoing louder than any gavel.